So with our lovely Miss M, hi cuteness, we're gonna do a little bit with some of our take it and drop it exercises. So I do enjoy having puppies practice. I know we mentioned the exchange game, but it can be a nice way to get your puppy to start practicing mouthing other items than you or family members or other pups. So a lot of times having particular toys that you save for interactive moments with your puppy is really beneficial. So some folks will have a toy bin, and then the problem with that is then your puppy sees these toys for weeks on end, and then when you're trying to redirect onto something like a toy versus your pants versus your shoes versus your socks, the problem there is that they've seen these toys all week and then the novelty behind the toy is gone. So you can either have a little toy bin, but then have a variety of toys you rotate through from day to day or from half a week here and there. Because if it's always the same friends, then it's very hard to be like, here's Hippo that you've seen for 3 weeks. Let's play with him versus playing with my brand new stinky sneaker or whatever it might be. So let's say, for example, I'm going to go ahead and ask her to take it. So right here, it's a very nice little bumper toy. She's like, yes, ma'am. So we can have her grab the toy comes alive. You'll see that I'm not jostling her. She's a baby. But even if she wasn't, I don't want to make this so hard for her or so overwhelming that she doesn't have a good time. So right now she's doing a great job grabbing and biting. There's this misconception that playing tug with your puppies will create this dominance concept where they're taking over the world with the totem pole of power. Remember that your dog, again, is not trying to be the pack leader. They aren't wolves. And then the dominance theory was debunked by the same scientists that came up with it. So this concept of teaching your puppy things through the spectrum of being a wolf or the alpha male or alpha female is actually just really damaging to your relationship with your puppy. Because your puppy, again, will not understand why all of a sudden you're doing behaviors that don't make sense to her culturally. Your puppy will never view you as another dog. They view you as a human or a different creature. So the problem with using outdated behavior on puppies like that is that now what you're actually doing is showing your puppy that at times you can go from feeling comfortable and safe as an individual to now being startling, overwhelming, and scary. And a lot of times using dominance-based theory and training, which again has been debunked, will actually create a puppy that will become more unpredictable. And you might actually be, what's happening is you might even be suppressing behavior and then creating bigger outbursts for later. So puppies will at times do rude or pushy behavior that would be helpful to sort of show them what you'd prefer. But taking a puppy and alpha rolling them, which is taking them and flipping them over, or grabbing them by the scruff, or grabbing them by the muzzle and saying no, only teaches their puppy that at times you are friendly and comfortable, and then at other times you're actually kind of spooky and intimidating and maybe someone that we can't trust. So remember, your babe does not have to get scared, harmed, or startled to learn something. Because in that situation, I always bring it back to people. Imagine you were with a friend, a family member, a significant other, and one moment they're being super sweet, very sweet on you and handing over flowers and chocolates. But then the next moment you do something that you thought was completely okay to do, like let's say maybe, I don't know, something in the house, and then they start yelling at you, or they start to become verbally abusive or even physically abrasive or physical with you. So at that point, that relationship is not a safe one, nor is it one that's healthy for you. So this is where, when it comes to puppies, I definitely have rules and boundaries and limitations for my dogs, but I don't do it through intimidation, coercion, or fear or pain. So puppies, just like small children, can hang on to trauma just like we can, and thank goodness we have therapists out there. But remember, there's no need, and I'm not saying this is what we're doing with her, but I like to throw it out there because a lot of people will say, oh, my puppy's showing dominance, my puppy's trying to be the alpha. And the problem with these old slogans is that it creates a them versus you situation, where I prefer to say my puppy's having a hard time and needs assistance. My puppy doesn't understand that culturally, from the dog's perspective, this is completely normal behavior, and what I'm asking of her from the human world might be completely opposite of her behavior and normal culture. So remember, furry little exchange student, who doesn't understand what's expected of her verbally, culturally, or physically. So right now, as she's playing, the toy is alive and I want her to wrestle with it. When I want her to let go, I'm going to bring the food near her little sniffer and then feed for the release of the item. Then I might say, you ready? I'm going to go ahead and ready, get her a little attention. Take it. Nice. So the toy, she likes the handles, which is fine. So let's say the puppy grabs it and takes the toy. The toy is alive and we're practicing catching the critter together. So when she catches it, the toy keeps wiggling, which means we're playing and we'd like to keep going with the game. When I want her to let go, my little one just coughed. When I want her to let go, I might go get a little kissy noise, show her my little hand, toss a couple little items, and get her in the beginning to think that letting go has value. So then I might go, ready, take it. So now my toy is alive and we're gonna play again. So there we go. Oh my goodness, chewing and wrestling is so hard. So now she's grabbed a hold of the toy. We're playing. You can also play this game with two toys. So let's say she is very food driven and she forgets how to play because she's more concerned about the food than she is the toy. I want her to start being able to be playing, and then while she's mid-play, practice letting go. So remember, this is also going to be the beginning stages of that take it and drop it. This could be out or give, but it's not going to be leave it, because leave it is an off-limit item that we never play with. So now she's biting and grabbing. I could even let go, get her attention, do that little find it, re-grab the toy, get her attention, maybe get a little sit, and then take it. She's like, let's just wrestle together. So again, now my toy is alive and we're playing. Remember, if your puppy is toy driven, we could have this toy and then we could have a second toy. So let's say, for example, I know she's very much so in love with my flirt pole because she likes little sheepskin. You can always get a smaller variety where it's a tuggy toy where you and the puppy can play together. Remember, I do recommend to have a toy where the bitey end, which is the puppy's mouth, can be attached a little further away to where your hands are. Excuse me, because when your puppy's learning about bite inhibition, which is how much pressure to apply when playing or mouthing with another puppy or whoever, a lot of times we as people do not love the mouthing because it doesn't feel as nice on our skin. When puppies are mouthing on each other, remember, again, when she comes to puppy play group and sometimes she gets a little too rowdy, we help her, but she's also learning how much pressure to apply while I'm playing with a friend. So if another puppy's like, wow, that really didn't feel so good, and they do a little yelp, she would then understand that puppy said, gee, that was too much. With humans, though, if you try to sometimes do a yelp, for some puppies, they don't understand because we're different critters, is they might view the yelp as something that might get them even more excited. So I would recommend that if she is turning into a little land shark, that she's more than likely super tired and needs a rest period. So, but let's say again, we're playing with this toy, it's come alive. Now I'm going to go ahead and hold this toy limp, but then I'm going to bring this toy alive. She's like, I'm going to do it like my puppy at my house does, where she's going to play with both at the same time. So there we go. But now she can go from the first toy to now the second toy. Nice job. So the benefit of doing two toys is you can get your puppy to practice going from one item to another. And then that way you can get her to let go of the original to grab the new one and vice versa. Though, as she's practicing some of these bitey moments, we want to make sure that if she's getting too overstimulated, that we practice dropping snacks. You want to practice going from revving the engine to putting the brakes on. So we might go, ready, Mabel? Nice. And then do a little name recognition. She's like, hold on, there's a snack. Good job. And if, let's say, she's too bitey and you're finding your fingers are kind of being the victim in the setup, nice, is you can also feed the floor or feed flat palm. So remember, when the arousal goes up, so typically when the puppies get really excited, their mouths turn into its own creature and they tend to be a little bit more mouthy than you would like. And sometimes it doesn't feel so nice. So ready? Go get it. So again, the toy can be alive. We're going to practice grabbing and holding. Nice. And remember, this is where you're taking these natural doggy behaviors, grabbing, biting, chasing, and then, of course, practicing on the appropriate item versus your shoes or your pants or your little one. So now that she's had this little outlet, she's not going to necessarily go and do it on other items because this need has been fulfilled. So again, we might go from here. Ready? Yes, and feed for that. So eventually, as you're feeding for the let go, this could then turn into drop it, out, or give. If in the beginning you have to do a little bit with some movement where you do do some movement where she goes and grabs the item, and then you go into doing a find it, which helps create distance between you and her. That's another great way to work it. So I know we were doing that earlier with the flirt pole. So again, she's playing, she's having a great time. Then I'm gonna go, ready, drop. She's like, my brain. Yes, and then feed for that. So I know in the beginning, yes, she is very visual, just like most of the babes, finding the world out through their eyes as well as their sniffer. But I would recommend that in the beginning, the other hand off to the side is what's gonna offer her a little something for letting go. And eventually you fade that out and you either relinquish the toy and we play again, or we switch between two different toys. Or again, drop it or out has become so positive for her that letting go of something she shouldn't have is just as easy. But remember, if your puppy doesn't get to practice like the toy exchange game or working some of these take it and drop it's, then when they go to let go of something they shouldn't have, it does become the end of fun and we steal the item away. So remember, your puppy might start to think that when you come nearby, it's a moment to either take the item, run away, take the other item and maybe gulp it or swallow it, or potentially lead to resource guarding. So there's definitely some more resource guarding information in some of those documents and videos I had sent along. So make sure that, again, if you're struggling with certain things, I know we had mentioned maybe doing a one-on-one for some of your other dogs at home that are adults. She's like, boy, I'm getting winded. Oh, we had to go pee. That's okay. Sometimes when we do some wrestles, we have to go potty. So I'll do a little find it over here. I'll clean up that little mess in a moment. But she has been doing a splendid job going outside as well. But remember, when they're itty bitties and they're doing a lot of either play or they just woke up from a nap or they had a meal or some water again, typical for them every hour or so to go for a potty. I know it sounds like a lot of fun, but it's your best bet to create a good association with the restroom is always outside. I do always try to remind my students, though, this facility was a doggy daycare for about 10 years. So you might be finding that at times your puppies get a little confused. 1 second, Hippo, I'll be right there. Okay, I'll come help you in 2 seconds. So, but we need to remember that this environment is very much so more like the indoor dog park. So even though we're trying to avoid house training oopsies in the home, I try to remind my students this is not exactly like a house because this has been used for almost 10 years prior for a doggy daycare. So even though I've done my darndest to clean, like I've mentioned prior, yes, there's gonna be moments where the puppies get a little confused and use the restroom in here. So, but she is doing stellar. So I would love to see her in a puppy kindergarten class versus, for example, she's been doing a really nice job at the doggy day school as well. And I know I mentioned it prior. If you want to just take the one round and take a little breather and do some other programs, great. If you're finding that you're struggling with something else other than her, like your adult dogs, check in about those lovelies. But otherwise, Miss M is doing stellar. Really splendid little lady you got. But for all the babes in the program, they did great. So we'll give our little lady a little break because she pooped out, and then we'll call it a day for the lovelies. Good job, cuteness.